been disappointed at all lately as a leader or a manager or a supervisor, somebody whose job it is to influence people to be the best they can and to achieve great results? Have you been disappointed at all? How did you express that disappointment? What kind of emotions did you have around it? Today, let's talk a little bit about your emotional impact on the team of people that you lead or manage or supervise. It was Antonio Damasio, who is a Portuguese-American neuroscientist who has written some great stuff. Just go look at it. He's got some great stuff. He's the one who said, we're not thinking beings that feel, we are feeling beings that think, or something pretty close to that, right? This concept of feeling or of our emotions, this is the big idea that I want to share with you today, and the impact that you and I as leaders can have on other people around us when our emotions are fairly intense. The concept of feeling really includes emotions, but it also includes the physical side. So let's work our way through this. You know, we have this thing called a limbic system, and our limbic system is incredibly fast. Our limbic system functions to facilitate memory and storage and retrieval of memory. It establishes the emotional states that we feel, and it links our conscious and our intellectual functions with the cerebral cortex and the unconscious automatic, autonomic functions of the brainstem. So enough of that stuff. But the limbic system is really an amazing set of structures within the brain. These structures cover both sides of the thalamus, and the limbic system is made up of the amygdala and the hippocampus and the thalamus and the hypothalamus and the basal ganglia. That all sounds like ingredients in a great Italian dish, right? But this really amazing system is what enables us to perceive the world around us and to determine whether or not what's going on around us goes into a threat bucket or a reward bucket. And it's incredibly fast. In about 1/20th of a second, 1/20th of a second, super fast, it goes from stimulus to perception of the stimulus. There's a loud noise, and then we perceive the loud noise. Someone walks by and frowns and stares at us. We perceive that, but it took about 1/20th of a second to do that. And then in about 2/10ths of a second from there, we go from perceiving that stimulus to responding to that stimulus in some way. And that response happens before we turn that perception into a conscious or organized thought, which can take 5-10 seconds to do that. Our response is a limbic response. It is a physical response, a neurological response, and we often call that emotions. You and I are emotional. Of course you're emotional. We have all kinds of emotions. And when you as a leader think about emotions, I'd like you to think that emotion has the word motion right in the middle of it. Our emotions, what we would identify as emotions or describe to somebody as an emotion, is the result of some sort of, surprise, motion physiologically. There's some sort of movement within our body, a movement of neurotransmitters, for example, a movement of blood flow, a movement of, or even micro movements, if you want to call it that, of muscles. Movement, motion. When our body experiences movement from one neurological state to another, or movement of muscles, etc., that is what we then interpret as emotion. Now, it's pretty interesting and kind of fun to do, and since you're alone with me and you can try this, you can actually create an emotion by creating movement. Now, this is kind of a backwards way to do it, but just to illustrate my point, that if you're sitting here right now just kind of watching and kind of half listening or doing something else, stop for just a minute and frown, and then hold that frown for a second. You will likely, after a few moments, 5, 10, 15 seconds, experience a change in emotion. Why? Because you moved your body into a frown. Another way you can do this is to do some deep breathing. This might sound strange to you, but again, you're alone, no one's watching. Maybe you're just sitting somewhere having a cup of coffee and no one's looking over your shoulder. If you practice right now some deep breathing, take a deep breath, hold it, let it out slowly, and do it again. Let it out slowly. Even a third time. If you're paying attention and you did that exercise, you'll notice an emotion, right? You can do it another way too. You could get a mirror, look in a mirror, and smile. And don't do this with anybody around. They'll think you crazy, right? Look in the mirror and a genuine smile and hold it. You'll notice a subtle change in emotion. All you did was change something in your body and it caused a little bit of an emotion. If you're walking somewhere and then you walk faster, your emotions will change. Not a lot, very subtle. If you're sitting calmly right now and then you cause your entire body as well as you can to slightly tense up in a way that no one could perceive it if they walked by and hold it, you'll notice likely a very subtle change in emotion. You and I are emotional beings. We're built this way. We're built to be able to perceive the world around us and then figure out some sort of response to that. Figure out's not the right way to say it. Have a response to that externally, and it's first in our limbic system. Now, we've come to think that there are about 6 basic emotions. Stay with me on this. 6 basic emotions, words we have used, logical words that we have used to describe this movement within the body. The 6 basic emotions that show up that most psychologists agree on are happiness, sadness, fear, disgust, anger, and surprise. Those are the most basic of all of our emotions. There are, however, when we look at it more closely, 27 different emotions that human beings have. I'm going to go through all 27, but quite quickly. Now imagine that if you're approaching burnout, by the way, little sidebar here, if you're approaching burnout in the workplace, you will not notice most of these emotions. In fact, when you're really into burnout, you're just exhausted, burnout, almost depressed because of what's happening in your life and at work, it's likely you only feel 2 or 3 emotions, and that's it, and then nothing else in between. So this is important. The 27 emotions I'm going to list, and I want you, as I just say them to you, I want you to think, yeah, that's an emotion I feel every once in a while, all right? The more of these that you feel, probably the more vibrant you are as a human being. Doesn't mean you're going to express them all the time and knock over potted plants every time you feel something strong, but here they are, and I'm going to say them because I'm going to want you to come back and listen to this at the end of this video, but I want you to come back to this point in the video and listen to them again. I'm going to ask you to do something. Here they are. Here's the list of what we commonly as psychologists agree are the 27 emotions that human beings have got. Here we go. Admiration, adoration, aesthetic appreciation, amusement, anger, anxiety, awe, awkwardness, boredom, calmness, confusion, craving, disgust, empathetic pain, entrancement, excitement, fear, horror, interest, joy, nostalgia, relief, romance, sadness, satisfaction, desire, surprise. It's a long list, right? Now, like I said, in a minute I'm going to have you come back and listen to that list. Here's the big idea that I want to share with you. As a leader or a manager or a supervisor, somebody whose job it is, maybe even whose calling it is to influence people to do great things, your emotions have an outsized impact on the people you lead. Let that simmer in your brain for a moment. Pay attention to your emotional impact on others. Manage your emotions so that you don't create confusion and fear in the people you lead. So that, moreover, you don't redefine what success looks like. Stay with me on this. It's the genius comedian John Cleese who said, if you can't manage your emotions, then you're left to expect that others around you will have to manage their behavior so you don't experience those strong and negative emotions. If you, as a leader, don't manage your emotions, your team will quickly learn to manage their behavior so they don't piss you off. What a horrible place to be as a leader. But you might be thinking, if I don't just let out my emotions, I'm not being authentic. You might be thinking, I'm just keeping it real. Well, if I have to manage my emotions, you might be thinking, I'm not being myself. You also might be thinking, but it works. When I let out those negative emotions, when I get angry and toss a chair or curse at someone, when I lose my shit, stuff gets done. Maybe that's what you're thinking. By the way, dear friend, that's a myth. That's emotional manipulation. When your emotions become the point of focus of your team or of the enterprise that you lead, and they change their behavior so that they don't experience your negative emotions, you've changed the mission of the organization. It's as though you've gone to the founder or the owner, or it's as though you've gone to the board of your organization and you have said, I know we have a mission that's printed on the wall, but I just decided to change our mission. Our mission is, don't piss me off. That's our new mission. That results in a toxic and shrunken and calcified organization. Never allow yourself to be in a place where your team has to manage their behavior because you can't manage your emotions. If you're sitting right here across the table from me and sipping on a wonderful bourbon, we'd have a great conversation about how you do that. Here are some things that I've learned about how to not let your emotions as a leader become the point. I've learned to take inventory and to look at those 27 emotions that I listed above, and especially those ones that kind of come out of fear or come out of anger, the ones that are based in that kind of threatening kind of set of emotions, especially those, take inventory. Which of those in the last month or two have you felt and demonstrated? Here's the second thing I want to recommend. Start to manage your emotions by managing your expectations. Have you clearly created your expectations for results? And then have you clearly communicated them with your team in such a way that they can negotiate your expectations? Take inventory of your disappointment because it's always related to missed expectations. And in almost every case, your missed expectations or mine are as a result of us not even clearly communicating them in enough time for a person to respond to them. Here's the third thing I recommend you do. Label your emotions. I just gave you a big long list. You've got now words that describe all of your emotions. And you could say to yourself, I'm feeling this. Right? That'll help a lot. And here's the fourth thing. Notice, maybe you even have enough courage to ask your team members about the impact your emotions have on your team. Listen carefully and genuinely ask. Ask and then say, and what else? And what else? And ask people you trust to tell you what you actually think. This is a pretty big deal. Here's the next recommendation. If you can't moderate your emotions, if you have never learned how to do that, that you've been allowed to just gallop your way through life and been praised by having these strong emotions that just splash all over everyone around you. You've never learned how to do this. You feel like, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. Well, then if you have those strong emotions, let people know. Tell the people around you when you're having those emotions what the emotion is. Label it and then make sure they know it's not about them. It's about you. This is a big deal. Here's the next recommendation. Get exercise. If you exercise on a regular basis, if you get physical exercise where you push yourself beyond a little bit, beyond what you're comfortable doing in a progressive way over a period of time, you are training yourself to manage your emotions. You will also have the ability to get more healthy on a physical level, but your emotions will not become such a big deal because you feel like quitting. You don't want to do one more rep. You don't want to run one more half mile. You don't want to get up on a cold day and exercise, but you do it anyway. and you are making your emotions serve you instead of you serving your emotions. Get exercise. It's one of the most amazing ways to learn to manage your emotions. Here's the last recommendation. Move a lot throughout the day. There's research that indicates that folks who have a sedentary job, who sit all day long and then go home and sit some more, have a much more difficult time recognizing their emotions, labeling their emotions, and managing their emotions. So move as much as you possibly can throughout the day. You'll find that it takes the edge off and enables you to manage your emotions better. So let's wrap this up. I know you care. You're invested and you're therefore very passionate about what's going on in your workplace. That's why you're a leader. That's why you're a manager or a supervisor. You care, you're passionate. Manage your emotions so that you don't create the kind of team or organization that has to change their behavior because you can't manage your emotions. They're walking on eggs all the time. If you learn this skill, your enterprise will explode with more creativity, more innovation, more effectiveness. You might even be able to accomplish some great things. I know. I say it all the time. Leadership is hard. It's complicated. But let's not make it harder than it needs to be. Especially, let's not make it harder on our team than it needs to be, because we can't manage our emotions, so we expect them to manage their behavior. Well, that's enough for today. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this wonderful bourbon. Here's to you.